Okay, I'm going to share a slideshow with you, and what I'm going to do is talk about a couple of things. And a few things that are going on at the moment in society is that a lot of us are going through, a lot of relationship issues and personal issues, and looking at our childhood wounding that's come up, and also with the current state of affairs, none of us know what the future holds. So we're going to have to learn at this time to balance ourselves, and we're going to need psychoeducation to get through this period of time over the next 6 months at least. And some of the work that I do, it means that I really dig into the psychology and understanding of complex PTSD. Generally that comes from childhood, but also we can have that as an adult experience where something complex happens over a long period of time and then it affects us in a negative way. But complex PTSD is also to do with our memories from childhood and implicit memories, which maybe we don't always recall. So I'm going to share this slideshow with you and give you a bit of information that is useful. And here goes. So I want to talk about when we go into fight, flight, freeze, which is a reaction to events, and that maybe we get triggered and it brings up a childhood wounding or issue. So here are 13 steps from Pete Walker's book, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving. And this is the short list, but in his book, which I'm going to show you, you're able to obtain the long list of the 13 steps for managing flashbacks, just for short and sweet for today. And we've got number 1 is say to yourself, I am having a flashback. So when we go into flashback, we're not always, it's very impulsive moment where something will shock us. And because of that, we'll be quite impulsive. And as we heal, we'll be less and less impulsive, and we'll be more in control of our feelings the more we understand. But number 1 you would say to yourself, I'm having a flashback. Number 2 is that you would remind yourself, I feel afraid, but I am not in danger. Because generally, when we go into a flashback, we're going back to the childhood memories and we feel like we are in danger. Number 3, we need to own your own right. So own your own right and need to have boundaries. And, you figure out what those are for yourself. This is what we need to do as adults. We need to reparent ourselves. Number 4 is we speak reassuringly to the inner child. So the inner child, you need to build a bond, a relationship. It's very difficult if we've been abused in childhood because the bond has been broken with that inner child, and we need to build that. So if you need to do some work on that, then, do contact me and we can do an hour, or look at your astrology, which will show us also where you're struggling with that area in your life. Number 5 is we deconstruct eternity thinking, which means that we got to realize that when we're in a bad moment, it's not going to last forever. It's not like when we were kids. It's like we're going to be out of it within minutes or hours. Number 6 is we need to remind yourself, so I'm going to read it to you, remind yourself that you are in an adult body with allies, skills and resources to protect you that you never had as a child. Feeling small and little is a sure sign that you're having a flashback. So be very aware of that if you feel small and little and you feel like that inner child is really hurting, it really is the sign that you're having memories from childhood. Number 7, ease yourself back into your body. Fear launches us into heady worrying or numbing and spacing out. Number 8, resist the inner critics, drasticizing and catastrophizing. So, we need to get rid of that inner critic as well. And that's work that I also do. Number 9, allow yourself to grieve. So often we're told just to get over it, or, what's wrong with us. And it's okay to grieve, to really get to that place of having a good cry, or, talking to a friend and grieving out the pain that you feel. Because sometimes what will happen is that we can be in our adult life situations and we'll be triggered by either a loss of a friendship, a relationship, or a job, or, and being unwell, and it will send us back into, a very sad place. And we do need to grieve. Also, number 10 is cultivate safe relationships and seek support. So again, we have to guide ourselves and be mindful. Number 11 is learn to identify the types of triggers that lead to flashbacks. So you can start making a note of what they are, like if it's a certain area or a certain person, or, you know, certain things like certain colors or whatever, you know, then begin to deal with them and get, you know, we can either change the way we think of them, or we begin to, you know, not allow ourselves to get into certain situations. And then number 12 is figure out what you are flashing back to. I don't know if I just said that, but anyway, yes, I didn't. So number 13 is be patient with a slow recovery process. So Pete Walker says in his book, you know, we've got this all in the spiritual community as well, and various, you know, I've seen it go on, that we basically have this all or nothing thinking, where we think I'm going to be healed one day and I'm going to be really solved and sorted out. We don't know what's coming next. So what we need to understand is that healing is a process. We do 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. So it's an ongoing process for getting to know ourselves, and where psychoeducation is re-educating ourselves. Then what we have is a friend of mine posted this the other day in my ladies group that I have, and on Facebook, and this was quite nice. It's boundaries. So number 1, I will take care of myself first. So we have to understand that, like if you're in an aeroplane and the plane's going down, then you're going to take your air first before you start looking after other people. And then you're able to. So the next one is, I will not allow others to guilt or manipulate me into doing things that I'm not comfortable with. And number 3, I will stand up for myself and voice my opinions with confidence. Number 4, I will not hold myself responsible for the things that are beyond my control. And number 5, I will communicate openly and when I need, assertively as well. So when I need to, and assertively. And number 6, I will not let my happiness depend on other people. So, you know, clearly we've got to have a balance, but we can learn to be happy regardless of what's going on. That's something I've learned as I've gone through my life and I've done my own healing work, that even at the worst of times, we can sort of not be so freaked out and get back into a sense of being okay. And this is a toolbox that Pete Walker has at the back of his book. And this is about how to regulate our relationships and be healthy in our relationships. So number 1 is to normalize the inevitability of conflict and establish a safe forum for it. Discuss and agree to as many of these guidelines as that seem useful. But clearly, if you're going to do this, you need a partner or a friend that's going to agree to these. You know, it's a good thing if we're in intimacy to agree to the way we deal with our conflict so that we don't cause more conflict. Number 2, the goal is to inform and negotiate for change and not punish. Punishment destroys trust. Love can open the ears of the other's heart. Number 3, imagine how it would be easiest to hear about your grievance from the other. Say it as it would be easiest for you to hear. Number 4, preface complaints with acknowledgement of the good of the other and your mutual relationship. So point out the good as well. Number 5, no name calling, sarcasm, or character assassination, which is really important, because a lot of people do this. They get into arguments and then they start using people's past against them, such like, which is not nice. And number 6, no analyzing the other or mind reading, which is a difficult one for us human beings, but we can do this. Number 7, no interpreting or filibustering, whatever. I think what he means by that is no, you know, filling in, putting words into other people's mouths. Number 8, be dialogical. Give short, concise statements that allow the other to reflect back and paraphrase key points to let you hear, or let them hear that you are accurately being heard. It works both ways. So, you know, you can just repeat. So if you said something to me like, you know, if somebody said something to me like, I feel really sad that you don't listen to me, then I could say, okay, so what you're telling me is that you feel really sad that you feel I don't listen to you. And then it gets a dialogue flowing. You can probably see how that would work. And number 9, no denial of the other's rights. So Pete Walker says here, you can see he's PeteWalker.com. You can visit that page, www.petewalker, Pete_Walker.com. Number 10, differences are often not a matter of right or wrong. Both people can be right and merely be different. Be willing to sometimes agree to differ. So this is important in life, particularly with what's going on in the world right now. You know, it's okay to have different opinions. This is part of life. Number 11, avoid you statements. Use I statements that identify your feelings and experiences of what you perceive as unfair. Because if we think about it, if you say you, then it's really going to just put somebody's back up. That's the way it works when we're in conflict. So there's ways of dealing with conflict. So I could say I feel this, instead of saying you do this and you do that. So it's tricky, but we can begin to learn these things. Number 12 is one specific issue with accompanying identifiable behavior at a time. Ask yourself what hurts the most to try to find your key complaint. So often, you know, for me, a recent one was, you know, lack of communication for me is, if I can't communicate with those I love, I really suffer. So that's, you know, my sore point. It's my early wound where I was not heard as a child. So I get into problems with, you know, if I'm not heard, I go into flashback. So that's my own story. Number 13, stick to the issue until both parties feel fully heard and take turns presenting the issues. Number 14, no interrupting. I think I've already said this, or filibustering. And present a complaint as lovingly and as chargelessly as possible. So present it, a complaint, in a loving way. We can explain to each other. Number 16, timeouts. If discussion becomes heated, either person can call a timeout. You know, it can be a 24-hour, 1 minute to a 24 hours, as long as he or she nominates a time to resume. So it's important that as well. And number 17, discharge as much of accumulated charge beforehand as possible. Number 18, own responsibility for any accumulated charge in the anger that might come from not talking about it soon enough, because these things are, it's part of, you know, living life, confrontation and relationship. And number 19, own responsibility for accumulated charge displaced from other hurts. Number 20, commitment to grow in understanding of how much the charge comes from childhood abuse and neglect. And that can be pointed out to each other as well. Number 21, commit to recovering from the losses of childhood by effectively identifying, grieving, and reclaiming them. And lastly, apologize from an unashamed place. So don't apologize out of shame, you know, really think about this. And sometimes it's not an apology, it's be something else, but also make whatever amends are possible, include your intention to correct your behavior in the future, and explain your extenuating circumstances as evidence that you were not trying to be hurtful. So this is important. I'm going to skip this slide, and I'm going to go to this one. Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving is by Pete Walker. The book that you can get on Amazon. I suggest that you do get it because it changed my life. I still will always be working on myself, but I've done a major part of my work using this book, and 2 years in psychoanalysis, trauma psychoanalysis, which has really helped me no end. And then avoiding your triggers. This is a meme. Avoiding your triggers isn't healing. Healing happens when you're triggered and you're able to move through the pain, the pattern, the story, and walk your way to a different ending. And we can all do this. And last but least, we're here to bloom. So do know that in all cases that, you know, that's what we're heading for. We're heading here to bloom, you know, and have a decent life with some beauty in it. And that's it. I'm going to leave it there for today. And thanks for watching. Thank you.